My father cheated on my mother, married another woman, and let his new wife's daughter treat me like a servant until I finally decided to ties forever. I'm writing this at 3 a.m. in a studio apartment that smells like instant ramen and regret. My kid won't talk to me. My ex-wife remarried a decent guy who treats her better than I ever did. And my second wife, she's upstairs sleeping next to the stepdaughter who helped destroy what was left of my relationship with my own child. But this isn't about them. This is about me. About the moment I chose to be a coward. It started with a text message, something so innocent. Sarah worked at the marketing firm down the hall from my office. Blonde hair, bright smile, always laughed at my jokes during those boring quarterly meetings. She was 28, I was 35, married for 12 years, with an 8-year-old daughter who still thought I hung the moon. The text came on a Wednesday. Thanks for covering for me in the presentation today. Or a lifesaver. I should have sent back a simple, no problem, and deleted it. Instead I wrote, anytime. Look stressed, everything okay? That emoji. That little yellow face that started all. Just relationship drama. Sometimes I wonder if there are any good guys left out there. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could see my wedding ring reflecting the computer screen. In my wallet was a photo of Emma at her school play, missing her 2 front teeth, holding a drawing she made for Father's Day. I typed it, there are. Just haven't found the right one yet. Then I deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again. The right one is probably right in front of. I finally sent. She responded with a winking emoji. I told it was harmless, just friendly coworker banter, but I saved her number under Sarah M instead of her full name. The first lie. The first secret. Within a week we were texting every day. Nothing inappropriate at first. Work stuff, funny memes, complaints, and then the conversations shifted to personal territory. Her failed relationships. My complicated marriage. I never used the word unhappy. When I talked to Sarah about my wife Lisa, I was too much of a coward for that level of honesty. Instead I painted as misunderstood, unappreciated. Poor me, working 60-hour weeks to provide for my family while my wife focused on being a mom and going back to school for her nursing degree. She doesn't really see me anymore. I told Sarah during a lunch that had somehow become a regular thing. It's like I'm just the paycheck. Sarah leaned forward, her hand almost touching mine across the table. That's so unfair. Or amazing at what do. Should be with someone who recognizes that. I felt a rush I hadn't experienced in years. Someone saw me. Someone appreciated me. The rational part of my brain, the part that still existed then, screamed warnings. But I had already started down the slope, and it felt too good to stop. My husband works all the time too. Lisa had said just the week before, exhaustion clear in her voice as she folded laundry at 11 p.m. But someone has to keep this house running. Make sure Emma gets to school, handle the doctor appointments, grocery shopping. I should have heard the plea for help. Instead I heard criticism. Maybe if appreciated what I do for this family. I had snapped back. That followed was, Emma heard us yelling and came downstairs crying, asking why mommy and daddy were mad. Lisa scooped her me a look that could freeze and disappeared upstairs. I slept on the couch that night. And the next morning Sarah's text was waiting. Hope day gets better. Deserve happiness. The affair began 3 weeks later. I tell it wasn't planned, but that's another lie. Every choice led to that moment. Every saved text, every secret lunch, every complaint about my difficult marriage was building toward it. Sarah had invited me to her apartment to look at some marketing materials for a client. We both knew it was an excuse. I parked 3 blocks away like a criminal. Her apartment was small but neat, filled with candles and throw pillows that made it feel like a completely different world from my house with its toy-covered floors and family photos on every surface. She asked, already opening a bottle. I should have left. Should have made an excuse and walked out. Instead I said yes. 2 glasses in, she was sitting closer on the couch. 3 glasses in, she was talking about how lonely she felt, how she'd been attracted to me for months. I know this is complicated, she whispered, her hand on my chest. But sometimes have to follow hurt. I thought about Lisa at home, probably helping Emma with homework at the kitchen table. I thought about the mortgage payment due next week, the family vacation we'd planned for Emma's spring break. Then Sarah me, and I let her. I let her and I her back, and in that moment, I destroyed everything I had spent 12 years building. The guilt hit immediately afterward. I drove home in a panic, practicing explanations in my head, but when I walked through the door Emma ran and hugged my legs. Daddy, mommy made spaghetti, favorite? Lisa smiled from the kitchen doorway. How was work? Fine. I lied, the word tasting like, just fine. That night, I lay next to my wife and listened to her breathe. She had no idea that the man beside her had just become a stranger. That the she thought she was living was already over. I told it was a mistake, a one-time thing. But I already knew I was lying. Sarah texted me at midnight. I can't stop thinking about today. I stared at the message for 10 minutes, my wife sleeping peacefully beside me. Then I typed back, me neither. The second I hit send, I felt something inside me. The man who had walked Emma to her first day of kindergarten, who had held Lisa's hand during her father's funeral, who had promised to love and protect his family forever. That man was gone. In his place was someone I didn't recognize. Someone who could look his daughter in the eye at breakfast while planning his next betrayal. But I didn't know yet how far I would fall. I didn't know that Sarah would become pregnant. I didn't know I would leave my family for her, marry her, and watch her daughter Madison turn my own child into a stranger. I didn't know that 8 years later, Emma would look me in the eye and say the words that would haunt me forever. Or not my dad anymore. A real dad wouldn't have thrown me away for a new family. All I knew was that I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The affair lasted 6 months before Sarah dropped that would crater my entire existence. I'm pregnant. 2 words. 8 letters. The end of everything. I was sitting in her apartment on a Thursday afternoon, telling this would be the last time. I'd been saying that for weeks, of course. Every secret meeting was supposed to be the final one. Every lie I told Lisa was supposed to be the last. But seeing Sarah's face, seeing the pregnancy test on her coffee table, I knew my delusions were over. Sure? I asked, like pregnancy tests lie. 3 tests, all positive. She was crying but trying to smile. I know this isn't what we planned, but maybe it's a sign. Maybe this is our chance to be together for real. Our chance. Like we were star-crossed lovers instead of 2 people who had betrayed everyone who trusted us. I thought about Emma, who had just lost her first tooth and left it under her pillow for the tooth fairy. I thought about Lisa, who had been so excited about finally starting her nursing program in the fall. I need time to think, I said. Sarah's face crumbled. Time to think about what? Whether one own child. That stung because it was true. I was thinking about whether I wanted this child, this complication, this consequence of my selfishness. I went home that night and watched Emma practice her spelling words at the kitchen table. She was struggling with responsibility, couldn't remember if it had one is or two. Sound it out, sweetheart, Lisa said, patiently helping her with the letters. The irony wasn't lost on me. My 8-year-old daughter was learning to spell the word I had forgotten the meaning of. That weekend, Lisa suggested we look at houses in the Better School District. She'd found a listing online, 4 bedrooms, big backyard, close to the elementary school Emma would attend next year. Look at this kitchen, she said, showing me photos on her laptop. Emma could do homework at that island while I cooked dinner. And there's space for a home office where could work when need to stay late. She was planning our future while I was destroying it. The realtor showed us through the house that Sunday. Emma ran from room to room, calling dibs on the one with the window seat. This can be my reading corner, she announced, spinning in circles in the empty bedroom. Lisa squeezed my hand. She's so happy. I think this could really be home. I nodded and smiled and made all the right noises about mortgage rates and move-in dates. But all I could think about was Sarah, alone in her apartment with our unborn child. 2 weeks later, I made the decision that would haunt me for the rest of my. I'm leaving Lisa. I told Sarah over lunch at our usual spot 3 towns over where no one would recognize us. Her face lit like I just proposed. Which in a way I had. Really mean it? I nodded, though everything inside me was screaming to take it back. The baby changes everything. We need to do this right. What I meant was I was trapped, and this felt like the only way forward. What she heard was I choose. That night, I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. Through the kitchen window, I could see my family. Lisa was helping Emma with a school project, something with poster board and colored markers. They were laughing about something. Emma's gap tooth grinned bright under the overhead light. I was about to destroy that. That moment of pure happiness, that feeling of safety and love Emma had known her entire. I was gonna shatter it because I was too weak to face the consequences of my choices. I walked inside like a man heading to his daddy. Emma ran and hugged me. Come see my project, it's about families. The poster was covered with photos, our vacation to the beach last summer, Emma's birthday party, Christmas morning. In the center she'd drawn a picture of the 3 of us holding hands outside our house, with my perfect family written in her crooked 8-year-old handwriting. It's beautiful, sweetheart, I managed. Lisa smiled over Emma's hair. She's been working on it all week. She wants to make sure it's perfect for presentation day. Perfect. The word twisted in my gut. Actually, I said, my voice sounding strange and distant. We need to talk. After Emma goes to bed. Something in my tone made Lisa's smile fade. She studied my face and I watched the first shadow of fear cross her eyes. The conversation that followed was brutal. Not because Lisa screamed or things she would have had every right to. It was brutal because of how quietly she took it. There's someone else, I said, sitting across from her at our kitchen table where we'd shared thousands of meals, planned Emma's birthday parties, discussed our dreams. Lisa didn't say anything for a long time. Just stared at her hands. How long? She finally asked. Another silence then. Who is it? Sarah from work. The blonde one. From office Christmas party. I nodded, hating more with every word. She's pregnant, I said, and watched my wife's world end. Lisa's face went white. She gripped the edgeable so hard her knuckles turned bloodless. Or leaving us, she whispered. Not a question, a realization. I have a responsibility to. Don't. Her voice was sharp now. Don't dare talk to me about responsibility. Had a responsibility to us, to Emma. To the vows made. She was right, of course. But I was already too deep in my own lies to acknowledge it. This isn't what I wanted, I said, like I was the victim here. What wanted? Lisa stood, and for a moment I thought she might hit me. She should have. What about what Emma wants? What about the we built, the house we were going to buy, her school, her friends, her sense of security? She'll understand eventually. She's 8 years old. Lisa's voice cracked. She thinks her a hero. She tells everyone her daddy is the best daddy in the whole world. How am I supposed to explain this to her? I didn't have an answer because there wasn't one. There's no way to explain to a child that their father chose strangers over them. I'll still be your father, I said weakly. Lisa laughed, but it was the most heartbreaking sound I'd ever heard. No, won't. The moment walk out that door for another woman, stop being the father she deserves. I moved out the next week while Emma was at school. Took my clothes, my computer, some books. Left everything else, that we'd built, the family photos, the dreams we'd shared. Sarah was waiting in her apartment with champagne and takeout from my favorite restaurant. She'd even bought a tiny pair of baby shoes, yellow since we didn't know the gender yet. I'm so happy, she said, curling against me on the couch. I know this is hard, but we're going to be so good together. A real family, while my actual family was picking the pieces of the I detonated. Lisa filed for divorce the next month. I signed the papers without fighting, telling I was being noble. Really, I was just a coward who wanted the whole mess to disappear. Emma asked to talk to me during one of my awkward weekend visits. Daddy, she said, sitting on the edge of the hotel bed where I was staying, did I do something wrong? The question destroyed me. No, sweetheart, didn't do anything wrong. This is about mommy and daddy having problems. But if I'm really good, we'll come home. I wanted to right there. This perfect little girl, blaming herself for my failures, trying to bargain for her father's love. It's not about being good, Emma. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Then fix it, she said, tears streaming down her face. Just say sorry and fix it. If only it were that simple. If only I hadn't already chosen my new over the one that needed me most. 6 months later, Sarah and I got married in a small ceremony. Her daughter Madison was the flower girl, a sullen 12-year-old who made it clear from day one that she resented sharing her mother with anyone. Emma wasn't invited to the wedding. Sarah thought it would be too confusing for her. On our honeymoon, I got a text from Liza. Emma asked me why her daddy has a new family but she doesn't have her daddy anymore. I didn't know what to tell her. I stared at that message for hours but I never responded. Because what could I say? That I had traded her for a prettier package. That I had chosen my own selfish desires over her childhood. That I had broken the most important promise I'd ever made to always be there for her. By then it was too late for truth. I was already living the lie I'd chosen, watching it everything it touched. 8 years, that's how long it took for my to finally give on me completely. 8 years of watching Madison, my stepdaughter, systematically destroy what was left of my relationship with Emma while I stood by and did nothing. It started small. Madison was 15 when Emma turned 10, and the age gap gave her power she wielded like a weapon. During Emma's weekend visits, Madison would make subtle comments about how some kids didn't belong in real families. It's so weird having random kids sleep over every weekend, she'd say within Emma's earshot, loud enough for me to hear but quiet enough to maintain plausible deniability. I should have shut it down immediately. Instead, I told Madison was just adjusting, that blended families were complicated, that she'd come around eventually. Sarah, pregnant with our son at the time, was exhausted and emotional. Madison's having a hard time sharing me, she'd say when I brought the comments. She's been through so much with her father leaving. Can't just be patient. So I was patient. Patient while Madison accidentally broke Emma's toys. Patient while she told Emma that real sisters lived in the same house all the time, not just on weekends. Patient while she convinced Sarah that Emma was disruptive to their routine. Maybe Emma would be more comfortable staying with her mom more. Sarah suggested when our son Jake was born. Madison says she feels like an outsider when Emma's here. The visits went from every weekend to every other weekend. Then to once a month. Then to holidays and special occasions only. Each reduction felt like relief in the moment. Less conflict, less tension, less reminder of the family I'd abandoned. But I was slowly erasing my own daughter from my one compromise at a time. Emma never complained directly. She was too young to understand what was happening, too conditioned to believe that adults knew best. But I could see it in her eyes during our increasingly rare visits. The confusion, the gradual withdrawal of the unconditional love she'd once shown me. By the time she was 13, Emma had stopped asking to stay overnight. Our relationship had been reduced to awkward dinner visits where Madison would monopolize the conversation, talking about her achievements while Emma sat quietly picking at her food. Emma made honor roll. I'd tell Sarah and Madison, trying to include her. Oh, that's nice, Sarah would say distractedly, already turning to Madison. Tell stepdad about the lead got in the school play. Stepdad. That's what Emma had become to me in my new family, an afterthought, a weekend obligation, a reminder of my past mistakes rather than my greatest achievement. The breaking point came on Emma's 16th birthday. I had promised to take her shopping for a car. She'd been saving money from her part-time job, and Lisa had agreed to match whatever I contributed. It was supposed to be our thing, father and daughter, picking out her first set of wheels. But the night before, Madison had a crisis. She'd broken with her boyfriend and was sobbing in her room, saying she couldn't handle going to school the next day. She really needs us right now, Sarah said, her arm around Madison's shoulders. Maybe could reschedule with Emma. She'll understand. Emma didn't understand. How could she? This was the third time I'd canceled on her for Madison's drama that year. It's okay, Dad, she said when I called to postpone, but her voice was flat, defeated. I'm used to it. Those words, I'm used to it, should have shattered me. Instead, I felt irritated. Why couldn't she be more understanding? Why did she have to make me feel guilty? We'll go next weekend, I promise. Sir, she said and hung. Next weekend came and went. Madison had a school event. The weekend after that, Jake had a soccer tournament. There was always something more important than Emma, and she knew it. Lisa called me a month later, her voice colder than I'd heard it in years. Emma bought her own car, she said, with her own money and help from my husband. My replacement. The man who had stepped to be the father I'd stopped being. That's great. I was gonna. No, weren't. We're going to keep making excuses while my daughter learned that her biological father's promises mean nothing. I wanted to argue, to defend, but we both knew she was right. She doesn't want to see anymore. Lisa continued. I'm not going to force her. She's 16, old enough to make her own choices about relationships. The last time I saw Emma, she was 17. She'd gotten into college, a good one, on partial scholarship. I heard about it through mutual friends because she hadn't told me herself. I showed at her graduation party, invited, carrying a card with a check inside. Too little too late, but I told it was better than nothing. Emma was surrounded by friends and family. Lisa's family, her stepfather's family, people who had actually been there for the important moments I'd missed while playing house with my replacement family. She saw me from across the yard and walked over, her face carefully neutral. Dad. Congratulations, I said, holding out the card. I'm so proud of. She took the card but didn't open it. Thanks. The conversation was stilted, awkward. I asked about college, her major, her plans. She answered in polite monosyllables while scanning the party, clearly looking for an escape. Emma, I finally said, I know things have been difficult. But I want to know that I love, we're my daughter, and that will never change. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger but something worse, indifference. I know, think, love me, she said quietly, but love is what do, not what feel. And what done is choose new family over me over and over again. That's not true. It is true. Her voice was steady, matter, fact. When Madison needed, we're there. When Jake needed, we're there. When Sarah needed, we're there. When I needed, she shrugged. There was always something more important. I wanted to argue, to explain, to make excuses. But standing there in the yard where she'd grown me, surrounded by people who had actually shown for her, I realized she was absolutely right. I'm sorry, I whispered. I know. But sorry doesn't give me back my childhood. Sorry doesn't change the fact that I learned to stop counting on before I was 10 years old. She handed the card back to me unopened. I don't need money, Dad. I needed my father, and he chose to be someone else's father instead. That was 5 years ago. Emma's 22 now, graduated from college, engaged to a guy who looks at her the way I used to look at Lisa, like she's his whole world. I found out about the engagement from a mutual friend's social media post. I wasn't invited to the wedding. I probably never will be. Madison is 27 now, still living at home, still the center of Sarah's universe. She's never held a steady job, never maintained a serious relationship, never learned to function without her mother's constant attention and support. The daughter I sacrificed Emma for turned out to be a manipulative, entitled woman who used tears and drama to control everyone around her. She succeeded in driving Emma away, and now she's driving away everyone else who threatens her position as Sarah's primary focus. Jake, my son with Sarah, is 13. He's a good kid, but he barely knows Emma exists. To him, she's just some random person his father used to know, not his sister. I've raised him to see Madison as family while treating his actual sister like a stranger. Sarah and I are still married, but we're not happy. We're held together by shared resentment, mutual disappointment, and the exhaustion of living with the consequences of our choices. She knows I think about Emma and she hates it. I know she wishes Emma had never existed, and I resent her for it. The house we live in now is bigger than the one I shared with Lisa. The neighborhood is fancier, the cars are newer, the vacations are more expensive. But it's all hollow, all built on the foundation of the family I destroyed. At night, I lay awake thinking about the away. Emma's first day of kindergarten, her soccer games, her school plays, her first heartbreak, her graduation, her college years. I missed all of it by choice. I chose Madison's drama over Emma's achievements, Sarah's demands over Emma's needs, my new over the one that mattered most. I tell people I have 3 children, but that's a lie. I have 1 son and 1 stepdaughter who barely tolerates me. My daughter, my firstborn, my little girl who used to think I hung the moon, she's not mine anymore. I gave her away piece by piece, weekend by weekend, excuse by excuse, until there was nothing left to give. Now I'm 53 years old, sitting in a house full of people who wouldn't choose me if they had other options, writing this confession at 3 in the morning, because I can't sleep for thinking about the father I used to be. Emma's getting married in 3 months. She'll walk down the aisle with her stepfather, the man who earned the right to give her away by showing when it mattered. I'll find out about her children from social media posts if I'm lucky. They'll grow never knowing their grandfather's name, never hearing stories about their mother's childhood, never experiencing the love I was too selfish to protect. That's my legacy. That's what I chose when I chose Sarah over the family I'd promised to cherish forever. I traded everything real for something that felt good in the moment, and now I'm left with nothing but regret and the hollow echo of what I used to call home. The worst part. I did this to, and I did it to the one person who loved me unconditionally. Emma was right, love is what do, not what feel, and I've spent 16 years proving I never really knew how to love at all.